Over the last few years, I've taught countless people how to free skate, with some learners being able to ride in the first hour and more rarely in the first 10 minutes. While I understand it's not exactly realistic to learn in such a short time frame, these are the steps I would take in order to do it anyway. Without the right foundation, the rest of this video is meaningless, so if you want to learn quickly, listen closely. For the location, you should be on a very slight decline. As you know, riding a bike requires motion to stay upright, and free skates are no different. The problem is you don't exactly know how to give yourself that speed yet, so the hill will help you do that. While you don't want to send yourself flying down a hill, you also don't want to learn on flat ground if you can avoid it. Next up, you want to make sure you're learning on smooth pavement. You want to avoid anything with sidewalk cracks, rocks everywhere, or anything like that. Free skates have big wheels to get you over these things, but when you're just starting out, any amount of this is going to screw you up and just make you afraid to commit to balancing. Next up, it's a pretty good idea to make sure you're riding JMKs. This is only going to make the learning process smoother and easier for you, but obviously for now, just use what you have if you already have it. Next up, you want to make sure this is a safe learning environment and that the area is free of obstacles. And then lastly, it's always a good idea to wear protective gear. It's not a requirement, but it's going to make you feel safer and it's going to be easier to commit to the learning process all the way through the rest of this video. All right, now it's time to get situated on the skates. This may surprise you, but some people do this. When you get more experienced, there are countless ways to get on your skates, but for the sake of learning, there is definitely a correct way to get started. Firstly, you need to choose whether you ride with your left foot forward, which is regular, or your right foot forward, which is goofy. If you have experience with other rides like snowboarding, longboarding, or skateboarding, feel free to go with that or just whatever feels right for you. The important thing here is to just pick one and stick with it. So on your JMKs, there's going to be a left and right marking on the bottom of your skates. Once you know your stance, goofy or regular, situate your skates shoulder width apart with the wheels pointing downhill. Now this part is important. The wheels need to be pointing in a straight line with the deck plates pointed slightly outward. Once the skates are set up properly, carefully step onto the skates with your toes down, one at a time. It's super important to keep your toes down here. Next, you need to make sure your feet are aligned with the plate. You know you're doing something right here when your toes are pointed slightly outward at about 15 degrees. Once here, feel free to just stand for a bit and get a feel for the balance. If you have a friend or a chair or a wall or something to keep you upright, feel free to use that. And make sure your feet are shoulder width apart and bend your knees slightly. While you're standing here, feel free to shift around, back and forth, front to back. This will help you get a feel for your balance and find your center of gravity. And at this point, it's time to learn how to go forward. Start by picking your front toe up and roll that foot back and forth. This will help you get a feel for the direction you're about to push off in and make sure those skates are still shoulder width apart. Before pushing off just yet, make sure you take a moment to realize you're not attached to these things and you're about 4 inches from the ground. So if you ever feel uncomfortable during this entire process, take advantage of this and dismount by either taking a step off the skates or by pointing a toe down and then stepping. So now it's time to push off. Your only goal right now is to push off in a straight line, and the turning will come later. So when you feel ready, push off either with your back toe, or you can push off from a wall, a pillar, a chair, car, friend, whatever you need to get speed. I want to emphasize that this part is crucial to this whole process. Make sure you push off with speed. You need speed to stay upright on these. All right, so if you've pushed off once, how did that go? 90% of the time when I see new learners try these out, they always make the same mistake the first time they push off, which is leaning too far forward. This is often caused by looking down, but either way, almost everyone falls forward the first time, resulting in them stepping forward off the skates. But you want to stay on the skates here, so next time intensely focus on staying upright. Instead of looking down at your feet and your skates, try looking forward in the direction of travel. This will just give you a better sense of balance as well as the environment around you. And then what you can also try is imagining a slack line drawn out in front of you, and as you roll, try and imagine balancing along that thin line. Don't fall too far forward, don't fall too far back, stay right in that happy medium. If you still find you're falling forward again and again, honestly, just lean back as far as you can until you fall backwards this time, and then try and work your way back slowly. Okay, so by now you may notice your legs starting to do this. In order to understand how to correct this splitting, you need to first understand how the skates turn. Turning on free skates is very different from other rides out there. Most other boards require you to lean to turn, while free skates require rotation. So to practice this, ditch the back skate for now and just focus on that front skate. And with your back foot on the ground, practice turning your front skate left to right to left to right. And then you can start to push off in little baby steps and try to guide the skate left to right to get used to how this skate turns. Remember, you don't need to lean the skate, you just need to rotate it while keeping it flat. Next, step back off the skates and practice this little dance. Toes in, toes out, toes in, toes out. This is going to help you in just a little bit. When you feel ready, try and practice this while riding on the skates. This will be how you fix the splitting from earlier and ultimately how you're going to gain speed. If you find your front foot is splitting forward in front of you, you need to crank those toes outward to correct and keep you rolling straight. Now, if you find your front foot is splitting back behind you, you need to do the opposite. Crank your toes inward to correct. Learning to control the splitting is something that sometimes takes a while to learn, so if you need a refresher, step back off the skates and practice this motion. Toes together, toes apart. Now, in order to actually turn, you need to combine this rotation with leaning your body in a particular direction. So to turn towards your front, point your toes together and let your body lean slightly forward. And to turn towards your back, do the opposite. Point your toes apart and then lean slightly back. Now, if you're doing everything right so far, you should be able to do this. Roll down a hill and remain straight for a while. To recap so far, the following things are hugely important. You want a good push off. You want to be looking towards the destination. You want to have your knees bent, and remember the motion, toes together, toes apart. Now comes the fun part, learning the pumping motion. The goal here is to be able to watch your feet slowly switch between these two pumping positions, and I found that typically everyone is better at just one of these, and it takes a little bit of a mental battle to push through and learn the other. So what you could try and do is film yourself and see which one you need to work on. As long as you practice this without leaning your body forward or back, you should be able to remain on a straight trajectory. So to use the motion to gain speed, once you learn these two positions, you'll need to apply a push-pull force in this direction. So as you do toes in, toes out, you need to pull forward and backward with your skates as you split them. Applying this force will translate to forward momentum, similar to pushing off on roller skates or inlines. Since you're now getting speed down a hill, it's probably smart to learn how to slow down. Now at this point, I assume you're only gaining a small amount of speed, so the best solution for slowing down right now is going to be to just step off and bail. But the actual solution for slowing down on Freeskates is going to be carving, or at least that's the main thing we use. Carving is a skill that just takes a while to learn, but for day one, just start by practicing very wide turns. And for more in-depth info on how to carve and slow down, go ahead and watch this video next on carving. While you won't be an expert in just 10 minutes, I think it's important to be proud of the attempts you've been able to make so far. Keep practicing and pushing yourself. Don't give up. Let me know if you have questions, stay safe, and roll with us.